Well, it's Romania Black, and I'm back, bitches. And we are on episode 4 of Steins Gate 0. And a week ago, basically a week ago, I thought that I was on the mend from the flu. I was like, oh, I felt bad. I'm doing great. And then after I recorded episode 3, boom, down she went. And I felt even worse after recording episode 3. So it's been a week today since I recorded that episode, and I do feel better. I'm not like 100%, but I do feel much better than I did when I was recording that episode. So that's something to be said. So, but we are on episode 4. And the last couple of episodes have really been Okarin trying to convince himself that he, Kurisu's back. She's just in this AI form. And Maho is like, no, that is not her. And you need to come to terms with that. So that's where we're at right now. The only comments I have from previous episodes is Kairosu for episode 2 says, regarding how Okarin and Maho are dealing with Kurisu's loss, with the former being more prone to forgetting that she's just an AI. I feel like the fact that he's the one that accidentally killed Kurisu makes it harder for him to accept it and move on. Yeah, I feel like in some ways him interacting with Amadeus is a way for him to kind of avoid that reality that he is the one responsible for her death, because that's why he's chose not to go back and try to bring her back. So I feel like that's part of it. That's definitely tied to it. And I think the fact that Maho doesn't know the full circumstance of her death is also, gonna come out of the woodwork at some point, but we're not exactly sure when yet. And then Sarkoth, look, Sarkoth, I need you to understand something. Because Sarkoth was like, X Day just means Christmas. You're thinking about it too deeply. You're a new commenter. I understand. But you need to know, I have been whittling apart and prying these titles for Steins Gate apart for over half a year now. So I'm sorry that the show decided to be a basic bitch and for it to just mean Christmas. I'm sorry, but I've been deep diving here the last half a year. Why should I expect them to take the easy route? So you're gonna have to deal with it. But anyway, I appreciate the comments. As far as the dub goes, there's a couple lines that were pretty good. Fubuki, whenever she's first introduced, she calls Mayuri her future wife, which is great. Mayuri swears her and Okarin are just childhood friends to her friends. Mr. Braun, I liked him calling Okarin a full-fledged college student now instead of a wannabe scientist. And Amadeus asks if Okarin was a weirdo. I thought that was an interesting choice because if you think about it, would Kurisu have called him a weirdo too? Because Kurisu is a mad scientist as well. So again, giving some differences between Amadeus and Kurisu in that moment. Amane says, I want to say Suzuha. Amane says that she's doing this for Mayu, which is Mayuri, as well as for her dad. So Mayuri is part of convincing Okarin. I'm curious where we're going to go with that. And then around the 11-minute mark, if you go back to episode 3, around the 11-minute mark, there's this little poster of these two magical girls, and they look like the two main characters of Puella Magi Monica Magica. And so if you get a chance, go around the 11-minute mark, find that still, and it's a pretty good time. And then finally, J. Michael Tatum is literally the master of the soft voice sincerity when he's explaining the meaning of Christina's name. Just is so good. J. Michael Tatum does such a good job. It's so good. But I really do like the dub. I think the dub voice actors for Alexis and Maho are really good, and I appreciate them. So yeah. Finally, the moderator Be Happy has talked amongst the council of patrons over in the Discord, and they have decided that after episode 6, I can look at the OP and ED. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's earlier than I thought, to be honest. So after episode 6, I'll look at the ED, and then that way we can start out episode 7 with the OP and ED. So that'll be fun. That'll be a fun time. I'm excited about that. But y'all, this heat wave has come through in the last couple days, and it's like 78 degrees in my home right now, but I'm not turning the air on because it is way too soon for that. So it is just going to be sweltering hot. Black shirt, was it a good choice? I don't know, but you can't see my armpit sweat, so we're going to go with it. But anyway, I'm really excited. I hope you all are as well. We're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive into episode 4 of Steins Gate Zero. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do it to it, Lars. Nope. Things just got a lot more complicated, and I don't like it. Why? But why? So, okay, that's not good. Okay. There are lots of questions that need to be asked in this episode, and we need to talk about it. And I'm this episode seems like one where they are going to present lots of little things that we need to keep track of now that are not going to be relevant until way down the line. So I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. So where we start out the episode is this World War III sort of timeline where Okarin has this flash forward where Okarin is with these people with the garrison, I think is what they say. And then they get shot and he gets taken into custody. We just need to start this episode off and just go through it because there's a lot going on. And I'm like, oh no. Things are already in bad juju dire straits. So we're going to look at this here in 3, 2, 1. And we start out with like basically World War III is starting. If you recall, I'm having to go back and remember some things from Steins Gate before the Zero version, where we know that Okarin dies 15 years after 2010. So he dies in 2025. And then we established that Amane goes back into the past in 2036, which is about 11 years later, which seems about the time the little girl, I think they said she was 10. So the girl who we know is Kagari, the war orphan Kagari, who looks exactly like Kurisu. Kagari looks exactly like Kurisu. And I know that it's all just possibly coincidental, but at the same time, I'm like, really, show? You couldn't make this girl look a little bit different than Kurisu? You couldn't? So she's about 10 years old, and then she goes with Amane. She goes with Amane back to 1975, where they get the IBN machine, and then they go back to 1998, where the whole Y2K thing seems to be a convergence point. Because if you recall, the whole John Teeter thing was set up that Y2K was one of the moments that we saved the world. So it was one of those moments where the past was attempted to be tampered with. And that is when she gets lost. And now at age 22, she supposedly is still on the loose. Which, this is a problem. This is a big problem, you know? And I'm like, you would think Suzuha would have mentioned this a while ago, but she didn't. So I'm like, what? But I do have, I guess my only question is that this girl, Kagari, never comes up again in Steins Gate. In episode 23, episode 24, she never comes up again. She's not mentioned. So whatever impact she has in Steins Gate Zero, I don't foresee her having much impact in the story afterwards. So either she's going to die in Steins Gate Zero, Mayuri's daughter's going to die in Steins Gate Zero, either that's going to happen, or she's going to prove to be irrelevant and her existence means nothing. Because it doesn't mean anything in episodes 24 or the movie or anything beyond that. So Am I worried about her too much? No. I'm confused by her existence and what point she brings in the story, but we'll just have to wait and see where that takes us, right? But yeah, so we have Okarin. My one wish is that there was more light in this opening, because I didn't know if my glasses were like fogging up. I'm like, can I even see him like walking around? But yeah, it's just, you see the people like dead in the streets and all the blood, and Okarin doesn't handle that very well. And then they essentially say that they've been spotted and he's supposed to run away. They get fired. And then as they're getting fired at, he wakes up in this room. So he goes from there to a room where he has been given a cell phone that felt like a time leap machine moment. It felt like a time leap machine moment. Not only did it feel like a time leap machine moment, but the guy that he's talking to, he's like, we're glad to secure you alive and well, Okabe-kun. Now, the Okabe-kun, if you look at this guy in the seat here, he's like, where is this? Where are my friends at? See this little sliver? This little sliver looks like Alexis. It looks like Alexis with his hair, because it's blonde, right? And the rest of it's covered out. So I'm like, and he said Okabe-kun. So is this supposed to be Alexis, the professor? And is this just all like a vision of the future? Is that it? And then the phone rings, like he's going to answer it. And when he goes to answer it, it feels like a time leap machine moment. And the thing is, it kind of, everything gets wibbly wavy, just like a time leap moment. But the problem is we don't see like the world line changing. So is his Reading Steiner ability acting up? Is the Reading Steiner acting up because time is being tampered with? And how do we know time is being tampered with? Because we see Kurisu's dad in the news, and we get confirmation that he's in Russia right now and has been since August. It's been 6 months, so things are starting to get a little tampered with. My question is, he wakes up and is in a room like he's been asleep, but then as he wakes up, he's like, was that a dream? And it's like after 8 o'clock, he's like, there's no reason for the world lines to change anymore. And then he closes his eyes, and then we have the intro, and the moment that he opens his eyes again, he's back up on the roof. So, you tell me. So, don't tell me. I don't want it to be spoiled. But then he's back up on the roof after we see him in bed. So, I don't know exactly why we've gone through like 3 transitions in that opening scene, but I feel like someone is tampering with time, and because he has a Reading Steiner ability, it's causing that to get tampered with as well. At the end of the day, we know that Okarin from this time period before he dies, we know that he manages to send back the video that will convince Okarin to fake Kurisu's death. We know that before he dies, he's going to send that video and get Suzuha to go back and change everything. We know that it's all going to happen at some point. We just don't know exactly how or why or where we're going to get to there. But also, I feel like the whole thing with Kagari is really sad, because if Kagari was 10 years old and she showed up as soon as Okarin died, then that probably means that Mayuri took her in because she was so sad that she lost Okarin that she adopted a daughter so she could take care of someone. That's heartbreaking. That's sad. I don't like that at all. But Maho is also interesting too, because we're going to talk about her in a little bit. And he's like, this feeling was that Reading Steiner. And he's like, where are we? And she's like, well, we're on the roof of your lab. And then he goes downstairs and makes it back to see everybody, and everything's back to normal. They're like, we're about to start the present exchange. And he looks over, and there is no time leap machine. There's no phone microwave. There's nothing like that. So he's like, what the hell happened? Why did my Reading Steiner act up? So, this episode is called A Stray Sheep, the Solitude of the Mournful Flow. So, the mournful flow of time. Time waits for no one, right? The stray sheep is clearly Kagari. Kagari is our stray sheep that has gone awry. We find out that in the gift exchange, Okarin got a lingerie that was probably meant for Yui. And poor Okarin getting that. And of course, Amadeus gives him a hard time and says he should give it to Maho. And he's like, that's called sexual harassment. So again, I appreciate that Okarin is at least being considerate and he's not just going to put Maho through some undue stress. And she's like, well, I thought you'd make her happy. And he's like, well, aren't you angry at me? She's like, back on the roof, I hung up while you were talking. Yes, but you called me back right after it happened. This is creepy. No, he didn't. He's like, wait, what? He's like, what do you mean I called you right back? I did not call you back. So what happened? He's like, I don't remember that. That's problematic. So we have, let's put a big old question mark by the fact that Okarin allegedly called Amadeus back and has no memory of it. So that's a problem. That's a big problem. I don't like that at all. Nope. And it just doesn't go anywhere after that. It's brought up, but then nothing happens. And I'm like, So Alexis says they got a call from America. And they're like, we're sorry for keeping you here this late at night. And then they talk about their gifts where he got a crayon and Maho got this present from Sheena, which I think is supposed to be like a sewing kit. Like the Fates, right? And they ask him what his gift is, and he doesn't want to, like, talk about it. Maho is in interestingly fine spirits, which is curious for, especially with what Alexis brings up about Okarin getting to know Amadeus and Amadeus falling in love with him. That was one thing that was kind of confusing, is that Maho in the last episode was very much against Okarin getting too close to the Amadeus system because she's like, you're getting in over your head and you're confusing reality for fiction. But here, when Amadeus is like, you and Amadeus are getting quite friendly and Alexis is talking about that, Maho doesn't have any like negative response. They're like, oh, she's really opened up to you. And I'm like, did we cross world lines? Did we actually change world lines? Because this seems different than Maho's attitude. And I'm really curious because if I were Maho, I don't know if I would be happy about the fact that, Amadeus and Okarin are getting really close, right? Our hopes and expectations might come true. And she says he's referring to love. The professor's putting all his hopes that she'll develop feelings for you. Why would we want this? Out of curiosity, why would we want an artificial intelligence system to fall in love with someone? That seems like, wee-oo, red flags, not good. What are we doing? I hate to be Jeff Goldblum being Professor Malkovich. I hate to be, or Malcolm from Jurassic Park. I hate to be that guy. But, when Jeff Goldblum's character as Malcolm is like, just because you could doesn't mean you should. This is prime candidate number one. Let's not do that. So Alexis's goal, Alexis wants Amadeus to fall in love with Okabe. That is a leap from where we were last week. I'm a little concerned about that because if you know anything about being in love, if you get your heart broken, then you're going to be really sad and you might make rash judgments that you probably shouldn't make that could hurt people, including yourself. The idea of an artificial intelligence system that possibly could start World War III getting upset at the fact that it can't be with Okarin, it seems like it would be kind of a bad idea. I don't know. Seems like a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do this. But yeah, she's AI, right? And he's like, yes, it's a system that preserves a person's memories and it strives to recreate a model of their very own brain. The process and the frameworks are the same, so even Amadeus should be able to love. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But even if that could come true, Amadeus could never be a true girlfriend. No! And I guess that's the part that I was kind of a little bit wary of, because maybe Maho's on their best behavior because they're around Alexis in the moment, and Alexis is their boss, and they can't really say, my boss has dumb ideas. But if I were Maho, I'd be like, you really shouldn't fall in love with this system because it's going to make things even worse. It's as if Maho is holding a grudge or something. No, I don't think Maho is holding a grudge. I do think that Maho laments that she didn't get to know Kurisu as much as Okarin has. But I think Maho is like the only one that's doing the ethical, correct line of thought here. Let's not cozy up to this AI system because at the end of the day, it's still an AI. I'm like, Maho's the only one of y'all that's thinking straight. Nope. So Maho asks the question to Okarin, saying, you guys got along really well and really warmed up in a short amount of time. And then she's like, how close were you? Were you lovers? Yeah, right. The fact that Okarin does not answer that question in an abnormal amount of time would, if I were Maho, confirm that. Because he's like, I just bumped into her at a seminar. And she's like, yeah, you told me that before, but what else was there? At some point, I am assuming Okarin is going to tell Maho about what happened, about the time leap machine, about all that. I feel at some point he's going to have to tell her. She's going to have to find out because things I think are going to get out of hand, especially with this Kagari character who concerns me to a large degree, but we're not there yet. He's like, I wanted to know that side of her, the side that I never knew. And I feel for Maho. I do, because Maho, you can tell she's a little bit, upset that Okarin has this strong connection with Kurisu, that even though they worked together longer than he supposedly knew her, she doesn't know everything about her that he does. And so she's kind of curious about that. But I'm like, girl, do not give in. Make it known that this system is not Kurisu. Also, we get a little insight into her apartment. It's pretty tiny. Her hotel's pretty tiny. There's all of these different pieces of paper that are scrunched up around it. So I don't know if she's been trying to write notes and keeps like ditching what she's going to say. So that's interesting. I don't know what that amounts to. We'll see. Yeah, so then we come back to Mayuri and all of her friends wanting to know if they need to go out and have fun on Christmas Eve. And Fubuki says the city's swarming with scoundrels, and the girls are like, well, we're all together. This should be fine. And then this part here, Mayuri's like, but he's a dude. Poor Ruka. Poor Ruka. Ruka just takes it on the chin. Ruka's like, you know what? It's fine. Now, then they say, I can't because there's a guest coming to stay at our house. What? Okay, so this is going back to Steins Gate because the guest at Ruka's house, Ruka's guest is clearly Kagari. So I'm wondering if back in the OG Steins Gate, back when the IBN machine was at the shrine, and at some point amidst all of the D-mails and the time leap machine nonsense, the IBN machine went missing. I wonder if it originally went to Kagari, who came and picked it up from the shrine because part of their mission is to get the IBN machine. So, maybe why else would they be there? It seems like such a random coincidence that some girl that's been missing for 12 years coincidentally just shows up at Ruka's shrine after all this time, and while they're looking for her. It feels kind of odd. Feels like a weird setup. Feels like a weird coincidence. I don't know. I don't like it. But I wonder too. Also, the fact that the dad wanted Ruka to be there. Is Ruka getting set up in an arranged marriage with Kagari? Is Ruka getting set up with their friend Mayuri's adoptive daughter from the future? That would be weird. That would be very weird. But why else would Ruka need to be there? So Mayuri's like, I had so much fun. And they ask where Daru is. And Daru's having a family talk with Suzuha, which the sheep's fur gloves connects to the title of the episode of A Stray Sheep, like that. and they get theater tickets where she's trying to set Daru up with Yui, being like, you two are very painful. You guys should talk to one another. And he's like, I can't be a stud and talk to her with so many people watching. Poor Daru. But yeah, so anyway, he's like, what is going on? Yeah. I am glad that Daru asks this question, like, what is she doing there still? Why is she still in 2010? Clearly, Okarin does not want to, go back in the past anymore, so what's the point? And then she lets slip that she had brought someone from the future back with her, and they've been missing for over a decade. What? What? She's like, a girl came with me in the time machine from the future, and we got split up in Akihabara in 1998. For 12 years? That's insane. That's crazy. So, she would be 22 if she was still alive. And like, when she was about to give up when she stumbled across a picture circulating on the internet. So, the girl was wearing something like this. So yeah, we definitely see she's wearing this like white shirt, has the little upa. Now what's interesting is that the upa is green, and it's not the metal upa because that's what lets the dad get away to Russia with the manuscript. But the upa also has a crown on it, so it could be a different upa just from a different crane game, right? Whatever. And she was looking for her on her own? Yeah. So then he's like, okay, so her name is Sheena Kagari. And at that point, Okarin has a tuxedo mask moment. Because, I mean, in Okarin's mind, he's probably thinking one of a dozen things. One, wait, Mayuri has a child. That means, who's the dad? And then second thought is, he's like, is the dad me? Because who else is going to marry Mayuri? So then he's like, is this like a tuxedo mask moment where it's like, this is my child? So you can just see in the moment where he's like, wait a minute. He's like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, Mayushi's daughter. And he's like, well, who's the father? And he's like, no. He's like, no, she's not her real child. She was a war orphan that Mayushi adopted in the future. I can see how some people would take it as Okarin thinking he's the dad for a hot second, but I don't take it that way because I don't think Mayuri and Okarin are like romantically into one another. I took that moment where he was like, wait a minute, her daughter, and as being like, who's the mother trucker that married Mayuri and got with her? So that's why I think that's my interpretation, is that he wanted to know who the dad was, and then Daru's like, no, she adopted this girl. She just adopted her in the future, and he's like, oh, okay, so that's how it is. Yeah. According to what Suzuha says, the peacekeeping squads in 2036 were after Mayuri and Daru for trying to develop a time machine. So, yep, okay. And then, what's interesting is that Daru, like, looks thinner in the future. He looks thinner, which, I mean, World War II, you probably were, too busy building a time machine than worrying about, eating high on the hog. He says the peacekeepers are close, you have to hurry. And then Mayuri, of course, gives her Kagari to take with her. She's like, big sis Mayu. Uh-huh. But she's like, if mom won't come, I don't want to. Interestingly enough, like, I do think it's interesting that Kagari's eyes are not as dark as Kurisu's. They're, like, more blue. But, also, Mayuri, like, every bit of light has, like, completely left her eyes. Which, if it's 2036, that means that Okarin's been dead for, like, 10 years. So, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But yeah, so she ends up leaving her. She's like, it'll be okay, Kagari. You'll have Suzu-chan with you. Obviously she's, the whole thing about her being a war orphan, I'm like, she can't be Kurisu's child because Kurisu's dead in this timeline. And I don't think that she's an android or AI as a little robot child or anything. I don't think that's the case because she's aged in, since then. So then it's like, why does she have to look exactly like Kurisu? Why can't you make her look a little different? But maybe we'll find out. So she went from 1975 to 1998 before coming to 2010 looking for her. And that's where they got split up. So Okarin's like, all right, she's Mayuri's daughter, even though she's adopted, which means in 25 years, she's still just as kind. I like that of all things he could have thought about in that moment, he thought about Mayuri being kind enough to adopt a child in a war-torn, timeline. Which, yes, Mayuri's a freaking patron saint, so... And then he's like, what was that anyways? So Okarin is questioning what that moment was. And he's like, has somebody, if that was actually a world line change, then somebody has made something similar to a phone microwave. Which is probably the dad. Because, yeah, they conveniently have that the government of Japan is reaching out to Russia. Yeah, Kurisu's dad is still alive, FYI. And it probably is him developing the microwave because he has the manuscript. Which they don't find out until the video comes back in episode 23 of Steins Gate to inform him about that. So, yeah, all this is going down. And it's very frustrating because all we can do is know what's happening. And we know that he's going to find out eventually about it, but not right now. So, it's very frustrating to have to sit there and knowing what's going to happen and not being able to do any damn thing about it. So, yeah. So, Okarin reaches out and asks Amadeus to help look for a missing person from 12 years ago. But there is no details. And so Amadeus is like, well, they're using dowsing and clairvoyance in America. And he's like, no. He's like, if you want to get on one of those crazy TV shows, the professor could be able to help with that. And just as Okarin is about to, smile and, flirt with Amadeus, that's when he remembers that Maho had told him, this isn't Kurisu, this is an AI. Don't get too attached. So he's like, well, I need to hang up and then leave. So, now, look, Amadeus has said that she's going to help Kurisu, help Okarin hunt down this girl. And Amadeus having access to an unlimited supply of internet, that seems, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Nothing could go wrong, right? I don't know if I like this. But anyway, so then we go back to the Y2K problem at the institution. It was never made public, but the main problem was this computer, the IBM 5100. And I'm using a patch program to make sure the Y2K problem doesn't happen. So then our cute little, again, she doesn't look quite like Kurisu. Her bangs, she has the kindergarten bangs and her eyes are a little bit different color, but she's still wearing the outfit that Mayuri has clearly made for her. She's like, if we came from the future, is it okay to do that? And she says, won't that change the future that we come from? And she says, well, it's something we have to do to reach Steins Gate. So the whole point is that Suzuha wants to change the future to get to Steins Gate. That's the whole point, to prevent World War III from happening. But I think something to keep track of as well is that Suzuha is very well aware that if she changes the future, her existence will fundamentally change as well. And for Kagari, I think that's maybe a little over her head and she doesn't quite realize that. So then while she's doing the patch for the Y2K thing, we're here to change the future. And she's like, change the future? And she's like, that's right. We can't let a world like that exist. It's all for that. Which then, in that moment, I don't know if you should tell this small child this. She looks up, and in the sunlight, she looks really scared there. I would imagine it's difficult for Kagari to comprehend that the future is going to need to change, because in her mind, she's like, is that going to affect me knowing Mayuri? If the future changes, will I still be able to be with Mayuri, who's her mom? And then we see this image of this smile, and I'm like, that does not look like Mayuri. That looks like Okarin. So why is Kagari imagining Okarin in the sun? Why is that happening? She freaks out seeing this vision. So what the fudge are we doing? Why is she reaching for a gun? What is happening? And she says, you can't do something like that. Now, she doesn't shoot Suzuha. She's like, I hear a voice. So, what the fudge? So, she didn't shoot Suzuha, so that's good. But what was the voice she heard? What was the deal about seeing the face that looked like Okarin? Why did she have that panic moment? What went down? Why? All the questions being asked about this kid. I don't know. So yeah, she's like, I searched through the missing persons data that the police had, but at first glance, I do like that Daru brings this up, that at glance you think that the world is a peaceful place, but there's lots of missing and unidentified people in this database, and it's like, yeah. I am glad that the show brings this up, that even though things always, like, you know, look normal, under the surface there's stuff like this going on right now, which is really sad, and I'm glad that they bring that up in this. So, she's like, I'll have to thank him next time. Okarin's looking to try to figure out this missing person, while Amadeus is like, look, I'm gonna check my database as well and see if I can, you know, find anything. You know, the base of Amadeus rides on a server in the research building, so I'm free to use the research computers and network for whatever I please. That's when I was like, wait a minute. Look, again, the hubris of Alexis and all of this. The fact that they have let this AI have access to the research computers and the network to do whatever she wants. I would be a little bit more conservative about that. If it were me, I would be a little more conservative with that. I would let a free AI just roam through an entire, like, research database. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be much trouble, but I don't know. I feel like that's going to be ominous for something later, especially knowing that Amadeus could be connected to World War III. You know, a little bit problematic. And so then it's like, what's it going to be? Let me think on it for a while. I really like this little short interaction with Feyris and Ruka and Okarin. I like that Feyris, for 2 times, she almost calls him Hyo and Kyoma, and she stops herself, but then on the third like conversation with him, she does call him Kyoma and he doesn't correct her. So I liked that. I thought that was a really a little sweet conversation. Love Ruka's outfit. Love Feyris's outfit. That coat with the bows, adorable. Love that. But also, so they're like, we're picking up some things. One of my dad's guests has come to stay over. And they're like, well, I can handle this. We're on a task that's a little awkward to ask Okarin to do anyway. So I also wanted to note that Ruka does not act like blushy around Okarin at all in this. Now, granted, Okarin has changed a lot and they're not quite in mad scientist Kyoma mode, so maybe that's why Ruka's not acting that way, but Ruka's just kind of like, it seems like they've sort of gotten over him. And so then they're like, they asked about a missing girl from 10 years ago, and Ruka's like, I'll ask my dad about it. And then Feyris says, if you're ever in need or in trouble, don't make a gloomy face. Come and talk to Feyris. I love her. She's really grown on me. I like Feyris a lot. And the fact that she's there for Okarin is super cute. Love that. Want to also make note, the railing is that damn choo-choo train. The choo-choo train on the track. It's a-going. It's a-going, y'all. So, in any case, they talk about a ghost. And that's when this urban legend gets brought up to Feyris. It pops up every few years of a ghost of a girl in braids asking if they've seen a little girl. Which, basically, Suzuha has become an urban legend in the last 12 years. So that's fun. An Akihabara urban legend. Good time. And then, so here's the thing, too. He sees the professor walking into one of the other rooms, and he follows him over. But then when he goes over, he doesn't see anything. So, what the fudge? What the actual fudge is going on? So, I don't know what to make of that. It just, that kind of went nowhere in this episode, so I don't know what to make of him just disappearing. Okay. So anyway, Suzuha's like, it's my fault that she's gone. I will find her. It'll be fine. Kagari's my responsibility. And Daru's like, now look, Daru's like, this is Mayuri's daughter, and we're not going to just leave her alone without trying to find her. And he's like, look, see, I sounded like a real dad. Isn't that great? So he's like, I know a lot of people, even though I'm an otaku, will call in a specialist. Which, it should have clicked that it was Moeka. It should have clicked it was Moeka that he was calling. But I was like, who's he going to call? But of course it's Moeka. And the fact that Moeka takes odd jobs, should have known. I can understand why Okarin is concerned with having Moeka back in the picture. But honestly, if the world lines and stuff haven't changed and Mayuri's still okay, then he shouldn't have anything to worry about. And the IBN is no longer in the picture. So again, we shouldn't have anything to worry about. So I think I'm glad Moeka is getting back in the story because I've missed her and I want to see what she's going to do in this. But yeah. So Ruka calls and says, I need to ask your advice. Are you able to meet me now? So the dad is there and I'm like, what is going on? And so then we have this guy who also looks like a priest with her who is clearly Kagari. So my question is, are the priests like, is she becoming a priestess? Are they trying to set Ruka up with Kagari like an arranged marriage? Because it would make sense if Kagari was staying at one of the temples because she was a little kid that went missing and didn't know where to go. So her ending up at the temple and the temple priest taking care of her would make sense. So is that going to be the case? I don't know. Interesting. He's like, that won't work. And he's like, I'm going to have to call you later. And that's when he opens up the door and sees that it's Moeka. Yep. And he thinks back to Moeka in the past. And I mean, I get why Okarin would be nervous, but also this is not the same Moeka from the past. So Kagari is such an enigma to me, and I don't like the fact that she's this wild card. I don't like the fact she's this wild card because what do you mean? She doesn't want to change the past, or she doesn't want to change the future, or doesn't seem to want to change the future. She's been going rogue for 12 years. So what has she been doing for the last 12 years? What is going on with her character? Her character is such an oddball enigma, and it is a form of chaos that I was not expecting, and I don't like it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with her. And I'm so concerned. And also, if she goes back, what if Kagari sees Mayuri? Will she know it's Mayuri from the past? Will she have a reaction to that? What are we going to do with her? I don't know. The thing that got me is that if Kurisu's dad is causing there to be fluctuations in the world line using the time leap machine or creating his own time machines, that would all make sense. And it's an interesting twist because Okarin, who has the Reading Steiner, is being affected by time, but he can't control it because he's not actually in flux with it. So that's interesting. Then you have Kagari, who is this big chaotic wild card that I don't like being in this story. What are we going to do with her? I don't know. Moeka, I'm excited to see how she's going. But then you have Maho, who is, she is kind of under the, duress of Alexis trying to get all of this with Amadeus and Okarin lined up. But I don't see this going well at all. It's just like, I feel like this episode is setting up a train wreck and we are slowly going to watch it go down the tracks and just slowly crash into itself. And I'm like, I don't like it. But what can we do? What can we do? So, oh my God. I am going to wait and see what some people's comments are and read those comments. And then if you've looked at my March 2026 update video, you'll know that we're taking a little bit of a break, but that's going to give me time to process. And then we're going to come back and then see what's going to happen for episode 5 and see where this goes to from here. But oh my God. This does not bode well. And I am absolutely terrified. So, yay. In any case, I'm excited to hear your comments down below. I hope you all have an amazing week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon. Don't you worry. And we'll see what's going to happen with episode 5 of Steins Gate 0. And I'll see you all then. Bye.